Good morning. 12 Faces of Sober Speaks podcast, episode number 76. Happy Saturday morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Kenneth L. Watson Jr. Hello, Beth. I'm glad you joined the podcast. We waiting for Jason. Let me do some house cleaning before Jason jumps on here. 12facesofsober.com. You can get merchandise. You can get you can order a signed copy of my book. All you got to do on the top of the screen, click the tab. It'll say order now. I just put in another order for some books, so I should be getting those in the next week. As well as I have hoodies, t-shirts, beanies, all warm stuff for the winter time right about now. Like I said, 12facesofsober.com will get you for that. I also will be doing my first speaking engagement at St. Cloud State University, a university where I received both my bachelor's and master's degree, one in 2003 and the other in 2018. In 2018 is when I received, hey Richard, what's going on, brother? Is where I received my master's degree sober. So it's definitely an honor to be able to go back next month and speak to the actual veterans, as well as the recovery organization that's on campus. Jason is texting me. Let me tell him that. Let's see. There we go. My fault. Sorry about that. I'm doing good, Richard. I saw your photo shoot, man. You looking good out there, man, in that Cali sunshine. I'm definitely jealous of that right there. But like I said, definitely an honor to go back. Like I said, I received my bachelor's degree in 2003, so that was 20 years ago. So to be able to come back 20 years later and spread a message, and instead of that message being this famous radio personality, which I dreamt of being, now I'm just coming and spreading the word of sobriety and a message to veterans too, dealing with PTSD and things of that nature. So, oh, there we go. All right, Jason's in here. Let me go ahead. But before I bring him on, let me tell you how I met. I reached out to him, I think it was last summer, and was like, hey, are you looking for guests? He said, yeah. Get in contact with someone else, one of the other co-hosts. And so we had the interview. I had just literally moved back to Minnesota, so this was like July, if not the beginning of August of 2022. And before we started the interview, we're just making small talk, and he was like, so where are you from? And I'm like, I'm from California, but I live in Minnesota. He's like, get out of here, I live in Minnesota too. So I was like, oh, okay, where? And he told me. I said, oh, that's like 30 minutes away. And so, I made it a point that, we actually, link up. And sure enough, we did that. We linked up at a recovery church. I'm not for sure if that's his church home or not, but I got a chance to hear his testimony. And then after that, we went out to eat, him and another buddy from the church, and had a good time. And like I said, I needed to be around complete strangers, but we spoke the same language, and that language was recovery. And so had a good time. Been so busy since I've been back that we haven't linked up, but I know we're going to have a good conversation today. So without further ado, let me go ahead and bring him in. Let's see. Hold on. It's been a while since I've done this. Okay. But I hope you guys are all having a wonderful Saturday morning. What's up, man? Good morning.
Wrong way.
Good morning.
There it is.
What's going on, man? How you doing today?
Good, dude. How are you?
Man, I'm wonderful. I went outside. It was rather warm. And but that's it, man. Just getting adjusted to another winter here in Minnesota.
What's happening? Some yellow wolf. I don't know if you could hear that. My phone started going goofy. It's like, what are you doing, bro? I don't ever go on Instagram Live.
Oh, yeah, I know. That's what, because like when you text me, I was like, oh man, I forgot to tell you that part. But yeah, man, welcome to the show. Like I said, Jason is a good person in the sober community. I know a few people here in Minnesota was like, oh, you know Jason too? And I was like, yeah, we met and everything. So, yeah, man. Like I said, thank you for the opportunity to come on your podcast, Recovery Revolution Live, right? Recovery Revolution. I
Yeah,
think that's what it is.
uh,
Yeah.
that's the newer one I'm on. I also
Okay.
co-host the Way Out podcast, which I've been doing for like 5 years. But yeah, I got invited to join the Recovery Revolution Live family about 6 months ago, something like that. And it's
Okay.
been good, dude. It's a blessing, to actually feel like you have something worth of value to add to the stream of life. So
Yeah. That's what's up. Well, look, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna jump into the interview. Now tell me, now are you from Minnesota?
yeah, born and raised, always lived here.
Okay.
Yeah, moved around a lot when I was really little. My mom was kind of like, she was Section 8, low income housing. So we moved around a lot the first like 5 years until she got in this really bad motorcycle accident, almost took her life. She got a big settlement from that, built us a house in Coon Rapids, and I lived in Coon Rapids from the time I was 5 until I think she had that house till I was like 23, 24.
Okay. Now, so growing up, was alcohol and drugs like present? Was it, around you? Sometimes people in neighborhoods, see things that they're not supposed to. So how was that for you, in Minnesota?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. My mom was a drinker. I don't know how much or whatever, if she partook in other stuff very often. Uh, but I know when I got older and I was smoking weed, we could occasionally convince her to smoke with us, but she'd usually just get giggly as hell, and then she would crash and she would go to bed and she would be dead to the world. So
Mm.
if I'd be having keggers with like 50 friends over in the backyard, it didn't matter, music bumping, she'd be assed out, cold. You know what I mean? Done.
And so, and at what age did you actually start using?
For me, I was 11 when I started smoking weed and smoking cigarettes regularly. I think first time I tried a cigarette, I was like 5, but I didn't pick it up, obviously. Um, and then drinking beer more so about 12, 13. I remember army crawling in my mom's room when she was sleeping. She had a mini fridge. As soon as the first time she caught me drinking a beer, she freaking put a mini fridge in her room. Well, that
Oh,
didn't stop me. I was army crawling up in there, all quiet, steal like 3 or 4 of her cigarettes and a couple cans of beer, go disappear in the backyard or whatever.
okay, okay, yeah. Now, so it sounds like um, it it wasn't a harsh repercussion for the fact that you were sneaking cigarettes, sneaking beers out the house. So did do you think, like, at that point, like, did your mom have a conversation with you, like the do's and don'ts of what alcohol can do to you, what cigarettes can do to you? Did your mom have that kind of conversation with you?
No, man. All right. So the lesson that I got was like, she bought a case of bottles of Old Milwaukee. She bought a 5-pack of wood tip cigarillos, Swisher Sweets, and a pack of Marlboro Reds. And she made me sit with her and this guy and drink and smoke until all of it was gone.
Mm.
So I would get sick, right? And that was how she tried to teach me that I don't want to do that stuff.
Oh, okay. But so did it work, or
No,
or did
no,
it?
not really.
Okay.
I remember going upstairs, running up there, and feeling woozy in my bed, and then I army crawled across the hall, super quiet, because she was just downstairs, and I didn't want her to know that like her plan worked, So I like tried to throw up as quiet as I could. I was sick as a dog that night, but we were up until like 5 in the morning, and
Oh,
actually
wow.
had a lot of fun. So I was, you know, uh, as miserable as that spinny feeling was, like I hadn't had that much fun with my mom ever, you
Mm.
know? Like I really remember that clearly. Like we had so many laughs and joking around, and like I asked a million questions because they're older and more experienced, and I felt like really comfortable just sitting there drinking with them and stuff. Obviously,
Mm.
once you have a few beers, you feel pretty comfortable anyway. But yeah, it was a trip, dude. And then I just knew when I was getting sick that I didn't want her to know that I got sick because I wanted to feel like I won because I knew what her end game was. She told me right off the bat, "You're going to get sicker than a dog. You're never going to want to smoke or drink."
Mm.
That didn't exactly work that way
Yeah, because
because I felt, even though I got sick, I felt like I won. Like she didn't know.
yeah, that's interesting. And for me, it was like, I the stories sound quite similar. Like my dad would send me to the refrigerator in the kitchen and take it to the living room. So of course I open the beer, take a sip, the same thing. He'd be like, "Go light a cigarette." I'm like, I'm 5 years old, 5 and 6. Go lighting a cigarette. I'll take a quick drag, but not enough to see that anything came off the cigarette. And I'm just like, wow. And then I told myself I would never smoke cigarettes. And then once I got into the Army, I started smoking cigarettes. So
Right.
yeah, that's rather interesting. Now, did you like growing up, did you face any like type of trauma? And it sounds like you and your mom had a pretty good relationship in terms of she teaching you a lesson in terms of drinking. But was there any type of any trauma that you may have faced growing up as a child?
Oh yeah. Like when my mom got in that motorcycle accident, she flew like 150 feet in the air off the back of a guy's motorcycle. They got rear-ended sitting at a stop sign, and then she
Mm.
landed on her chin and she slid on the ground for like 150 feet. So it dislocated her jaw completely on both sides. She had a traumatic brain injury. She was in the hospital in a coma for like 3 months and then hospitalized for an additional 3 months. I don't think I ever got to go see her during that time. Probably for my own protection, because from what I hear, her head was like the size of a watermelon, and covered her whole head and face and stuff covered in bruises and stuff. But fresh stitches all along down here. But I had to go live with my uncle and my aunt, and I ended up getting molested by their son, who's kind of my daycare. He was 16. He molested me repeatedly for a few months, and that was something that would haunt me the rest of my life. And that fear, because any shred of safety in my life was decimated with that whole situation. Ended up going to live with another uncle, again, alcoholic household. Him and my aunt, well, he was working a lot over the road trucking, but my aunt, she drank brandy every day, and some days were probably peaceful and some days were probably crazy over there. And I don't know, man, it was weird. And then when mom's recovered and she had all this money and she built us a house, and like that version of her post accident was all that I can really remember. But I've talked to relatives and stuff that said she was very different after recovering from the accident. Very short fuse, easy to become confused, and just kind of spacey, but very, very quick tempered. and so what resulted was her self-medicating for years. So again, she was either working or at the bar for a number of years after that, and bringing in different men Well, other than that, there was a couple years when she was with my brother and sister's dad, and they, came out of that relationship, but it was pretty short lived, honestly. And then after that, she had like a fear of commitment. So it was like whoever, if they weren't emotionally available, my mom would see them again type thing. So some of these guys would sneak in and out the back sliding glass door. You wouldn't know they were there unless you were wide awake and you heard noises, downstairs, headboard banging type shit. But yeah, for trauma, definitely that sexual abuse was a big one for me. And then there's been physical and emotional abuse that happened during some of the nights of debauchery that happened at my house. I've walked in on my mom in the kitchen, doing sexual acts to guys and shit like that when I was younger that burned in my brain,
Now,
stuff like that.
now, did now getting into like your teenage adult years. Now, was that something that you continued? Did you continue, smoking, drinking, in high school or post high school? How was that like for you?
Oh yeah. I think when I was about 13, my mom got in trouble for something. Because basically she had my brother when I was 8 and then my sister when I was 10. But until they were 5 and 3, I stayed home a lot. I took care of them a lot. And I kind of feel like I got robbed of a childhood, so to speak. Like I was a really high functioning kid, I guess. And I wanted my mom's approval and love. I didn't want to fight with her. She was scary when she was mad. So I tried to do my best to step in and help, because she needed help with the kids and stuff. But, as I got better at it, then I just kind of got left alone with them. But as soon as I was like 13 anyway, she got in trouble. And so I think she had to do like meetings and sign the card and, going through the court system, jumping through their hoops. And I remember when that happened and she was sober minded and she would try to have a heart to heart with me, and apologize about some stuff and this and that. And I capitalized on that in a weird way. I took it as an opportunity because it felt safe, right? Like, so I let her know, how I felt, and I was not. And I talked her into like leaving me alone, basically, or whatever, and that I should never have to babysit, So like she tried to work shit out with the neighbors after that, with the kids, and I think she was trying to make amends. But I was off and running at that point, so I was smoking all the time, smoking weed all the time, drinking all the time. I lived on like a cul-de-sac road, and I had train tracks in my backyard, and there's a trailer park back there. And a lot of the kids that I really connected with were from that trailer park. And so, I was like not even a year and a half into smoking weed every day and shit that I started selling it. And then it wasn't long after that, I started selling ecstasy and coke. And then I was selling meth and acid and shrooms. I sold a lot of different drugs. I always wanted to be like a walking pharmacy, like corner every market, take everybody's business. And doling out the stuff to my friends. You feel that sense of importance and power when people are always looking to you for something that they want, and everybody's your best friend. You think. Yeah, as soon as the drugs are gone, it's like poof, they all scatter like cockroaches. But I didn't know that, right?
That's interesting. Now, now you got your hands in a lot of dirty work. Now, did any of that like lead to any problems? Run-ins with the law, getting robbed? I mean, did any of those type of situations, did you run into that?
Oh, dude, it's just so much. I mean, when you're talking about the insanity piece, I mean, between, destruction of property and home invasions that I pulled during my time. I've also, I've been jacked a couple times. I went into holding cells once or twice, and I remember the look on her face, man, when my mom would come get me. She would be pissed, bro.
Mm.
And, it got to the point where, if I'd sneak out, didn't matter what time of night it was, when I'd come sneaking back in, she'd be awake waiting for me, man. And she'd be smelling me. And all she had to do was like grab my chin and tell me to look at her. And she knew instantly that something wasn't right with me. Dude, I mean, I got in more trouble with her at home than I did legally. And I definitely got in a lot of trouble out on them streets with competitors or acquaintances, strangers at certain bigger parties. This was back in the days of pagers, and you'd have raves every once in a while that would be going on, but these raves were like super elaborate with how you could find them. You had to know a person who would shoot you a number, and then you'd call the number, and it would be some kind of like automated voicemail, and it would tell you like the next channel to go through, like page this number, and then you page that number with the special code, and then it would page you with another number. And it was a whole elaborate thing. You could call from a payphone. Some of you kids
gotta love the 90s.
Some of you kids out there don't know nothing about no payphones or pages, but so you'd go to some of those kinds of events, packing everything you could carry, looking to make a bunch of money, and sometimes it would end up, in a fight or a chase, or but it's funny because the only times I got jacked was people that I really thought I could trust, people that I really thought were my friends, that I like let in my home. Got pistol whipped one time for a 1/4 ounce of like swag, by a dude that I didn't know, but he came with a guy that I played open gym basketball with for a couple years in high school, and it was like, it just, that kind of stuff jaded me and made me really develop trust issues, because these were, people I thought were my friends. Another time, a buddy of mine, Levi, completely set up a whole thing, and I just felt so betrayed. So then I had a hard time trusting people. Start buying guns and taking extra steps to try to ensure that nobody can ever fuck with me again. You know what I mean?
Now, that definitely is a lifestyle. If you didn't grow up in the 90s, you probably won't understand, like I said, what he's talking about. But it was interesting because it made me think about, and I didn't go to raves, but I heard about it when I was, growing up in San Diego, California. And it sounds about right. You had to go through multiple numbers before you got to get that information on where the party was at. You know what I'm saying? It was just that discreet. And then, like I said, I'm finding these things out now as an adult. Like, I'm like, wait a minute, I didn't know this was going on in high school. But like I said, I was too busy on a football field or a basketball court or chasing young ladies. So that was my concern back then. But now, excuse me. Now, was there ever a time, like, running through your mind, like, oh man, is this the lifestyle that I want to live for the next 5, 10, 15 years? Or was it like, because some people have an exit plan. will be in it to make so much money. At least person, like they think they want to make so much money and then walk away.
Right.
Like how was it for you? Like what was it that got you to say, you know what? Yeah, I need to rethink life right now.
That's funny you asked that, because it was you know, I think a number of times throughout my life I was guilty of that, like justifying a decision, but based on like, oh, I'm just gonna do it until I can like pay off this car or get my own place or afford to get a lawyer to get my kids back or whatever I said, and I meant that shit. That's the thing about addiction. It's like so many times we'll mean it from the bottom of our heart when we say stuff, promise stuff, apologize for stuff, but then we'll do the opposite anyway of what we intend to do. And it's like that's where that hopelessness starts to come in, because you just don't know. You can't trust yourself no more. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I was like, towards the end of my run, because I had been selling meth for this guy I worked with that was connected to the cartel. So he was hooking me up, and I was making a lot of money. But that was why I started doing that, because I was like, I'm going to be responsible with it. And mind you, at this time, I was 8 years off of the needle. That needle is the thing, because you asked it also if I ever felt like, you know, is this the life I want to live? No, I never did for years. And then once I was a junkie, if anything, I felt like for a long time, I felt like this is just who I am. And if people don't like it, then there's the door, because this is all I'll ever be is a straight up, you know, needle junkie. And I had accepted that about myself for a long time. You know, I lost my kids, and then my first marriage destroyed because of that. So when I quit, I quit the needle. I thought that I was such a good boy when I was just drinking and smoking for like 8 years. And then I made this decision that I was going to start selling this meth for this dude to get my car paid off and get an apartment or a place of my own for me and my son. Because this was right after my second marriage fell apart due to my alcoholism. And that, you know, so it's like same devils, different levels, right? You can pick a different crutch, but eventually it's going to get out of control. Story of my life. But yeah, I had made this excuse and this plan in my mind, and I went to execute it. And it, you know, I made a lot of money, but it was such a fast, rapid progression that, you know, it was not long before I had a needle in my arm. It was not long before I was getting betrayed by people that I thought I could trust again. And that's pretty fucked up when you start doing that, slanging like that, and living that lifestyle again for the first time in a long time. And you've already learned all these lessons, that these people aren't really your friends, that you got to keep them at arm's length, and you got to be more smart about it, have a healthy level of detachment. You can know all that shit. It doesn't matter. You're still going to get screwed over by people you thought you could trust, and it's going to hurt. It's still going to blindside you and be like a kick in the nuts, right? So, yeah. I mean, it wasn't until I got busted at this bar I was working at, and I was selling drugs out of the back door in between tickets. I was cooking there. And then I got off my shift, and I was supposed to go get 2 ounces. I had my guy waiting in the parking lot, and one of my best friends was also waiting in the parking lot. So when I got off work, I got my free beer. I went out to the patio smoking section, and I quick skedaddled out into the parking lot, talked to my dude, paid him, got 2 ounces of meth, and then threw my backpack with the dope and shit in my buddy's car, ran back to the smoking section, finished my cigarette, slammed the rest of my craft beer, and then I left. And I got swarmed So did he. He went down this road over here, and I went the other way. And we both got swarmed by like 10 squads. You know, like we were being investigated. I had a deal that was supposed to go down that morning, and the guy had like did a recorded phone call with the cops, which I didn't find that out until months later when I got my discovery stuff in court. And, you know, I thought I was going to go to prison for a long time, but I had to do this court battle thing. And so, you know, they set you loose after a couple days. They watch you. They want you to, you know, hang yourself by getting caught up again.
Mm-hmm.
And I just isolated, man. Out of fear, I didn't sell no more. I collected the credit. You know, I had probably 2,400 out on the street in credit at the time. I actually collected all of that, but 350 somehow. I mean, it probably kept me high for a month. Started selling my own shit, and then I went into, you know, I was probably in and out of a state of meth-induced psychosis for a lot of that next few months, but there was this one in particular, this psychosis that was like a tailor-made version of hell just for me. And at the end of that, I had this huge knife up to my neck. I'm naked on the floor. I'm wailing like some kind of dying animal. It was like an out-of-body experience, and I was yelling like, help me, help me. But I meant like, help me. You know, I just wanted to fall on this knife and end it all. That's what I was asking for help for. But I don't know, man. God must have been listening, dude, and he helped me in a different way. And I didn't even know I was praying in that moment. You know? I didn't even know I was praying, man. But I put the knife down, and I picked up the phone, and I called this dude that used to be my sponsor, and I told him all this stuff. And then he was like, write this down. And he said, I want you to call me every day. And he's like, if I don't answer, leave a voicemail, but here's what I want you to tell me every day. He's like, tell me 3 things you're grateful for. Tell me 1 thing you're doing for your recovery today. And he said, I want you to set up therapy. And I called him every day for 3 weeks before he answered his phone. And he was like, damn, you really want this shit. And I stayed clean after that. Except for like a little beer at bedtime. So like you would put in the post, my clean date's July 23rd, 2016, but this was March 6th, 2016. And that day will forever hold a special place in my heart, because that was the catalyst. You know, you asked, that's the long story and 3 squirrel moments version of the answer to your question. Like, when did you ever think that you needed to change or that you had a problem? That was it. That was it right there.
That's what's up. What's up, Felton, my bro out in Phoenix and stuff. No, yeah. So I mean, that's pretty cool, man. Like that, you know, you said you was reaching out to the sponsor for 3 weeks before he actually answered. He responded to you.
Well, it was not that morning. That was the weirdest thing about the whole fucking thing, dude. I'm at the tail end of this psychosis. I'm still higher than a kite, guaranteed. But I was in it was like I said, I was trying to kill myself. But in that moment, he answered. But after I wrote that list down and he gave me those simple instructions, and there was a couple other things, like he said, because I was supposed to be to work in an hour. He's like, you got to call your boss. You got to tell him you ain't coming in today. And then he's like, but more than that, you need to tell him what you've been up to. You need to get honest with them. He was like, your secrets are fucking you up. You know, and like they got you sicker than a dog right now. So, like, that was weird that he answered the phone that morning. You know, that was weird. After that, I did what he said for 3 weeks. I called him every day. I left him those voicemails. I left him more than one voicemail sometimes because the damn thing cut me off, and I was I was trying to tell him about what I heard in this meeting, or like what I read in the literature, and I was just having these aha moments, man, and I felt really it was just different that time. I dove in with both feet, and yeah, obviously that's not my clean date, so I didn't do it perfect, but July 23rd was my birthday, and I had to contend with the fact I was having those beers, bedtime beers, because my mind said, I'm not getting a buzz, it shouldn't count. Like, I don't have a needle in my arm, I'm not smoking weed, I'm not taking pills, I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that. I didn't understand that that's still a reservation, and it's like leaving a loose end, in my life, and I wanted to have a different guy, because at this point, the guy we were just talking about, his dad was like terminally ill, so then he became completely unavailable. I wanted to pick up a new sponsor, and it's my sponsor I have now, but he wouldn't work with me until I let go of that reservation, until I said no more beers, and I got honest about it in the meetings and told people, and I was pissed. So I was like, I'm going to make it worth it, and I'm going to go party over my birthday weekend. But I went a day early, and I only had a few tall boys and a couple oneies, and I wasn't even very hungover the next morning, but just enough to feel kind of different, icky a little in the morning. Ate some breakfast, and I couldn't get out of my head, and then I called him and came clean. I ended up leaving that afternoon, didn't use it all that day, and that was our birthday. That was the day of the real party, But I just hung out until a couple people started getting a little slurry, and I bailed before I got tempted, And I never turned back after that, dude. So people are always like, your birthday is your clean date? And I'm like, yeah, but it wasn't. The plan was to get fucked up. The plan was not to make it my clean date, but it went the opposite. So a higher power working in my life, dude.
And I want to share this with you too. My brother Felton, in 2016, I think it was, they set me up. It was him, one of my brother. My brother, he also lives in Phoenix, Anthony, and then it was another one of his friends. We went out to a buffet. And then they tricked me. They were like, yeah, well, you got all this stuff going on in your life. You need to stop drinking, and you need to stop doing this and this and that. And I'm like, man, look, I'm just here to come get me something to eat. Like, I wasn't thinking about that part. But the reason why I'm mentioning him is because, right before I actually got sober, I was in a homeless shelter in Phoenix, and he was like, yeah, man, you got to, stop the drinking, you got to get your life together and this and this and that. And I was just like, man, I don't know for sure if I'll ever be able to actually stop drinking. And, he was like, maybe you need to leave. Maybe you need to get out of Arizona. And that's exactly what happened, is that once I left Arizona and I was away from the BS that was going on down there, in my previous marriage, I started to live for me and work on me compared to having to deal with what was going on out there. And so, I'm glad that he tuned in this morning. So I wanted to, just, touch on that and just say, I appreciate you, bro, for hanging in there with me since I was 15 years old. So, now
Hell yeah.
So, and it's interesting that you say that. So what was July 24th of 2016 like?
Honestly, dude, it was pretty good. I mean, I had been up to that point really since March 6th.
Mm-hmm.
I've been going to like 10 meetings a week.
Okay.
I had built up a huge community of people around me through fellowship and events and meetings, and developed some awesome bonds and relationships. I was having aha moments like on a regular basis, dude, and I was finding a spiritual life before I even learned that tough lesson on my birthday. So yeah, it was just like hit the ground running, dude. If anything, it was like, imagine you're trying to run a marathon or something with your shoelaces untied.
Mm.
And then I tied them up and got them tight and realized that my legs were hurting less, my knees were hurting less, and I was really hitting a different stride and making moves. And it was awesome. It was weird though, because that was a hard situation for me. It was hard to admit, and then it was really hard to go to the meetings after that and admit. But guess what happened? People were like, dude, I can't believe you just told everybody that. You're like the strongest person I know in recovery. I'm like, what? Like, you don't think I'm a lying piece of shit? You know, like, what? Blew my damn mind, dude. So, you know, in the rooms of recovery, we don't shoot our wounded. And that's the way it should be. I'm not saying nobody does. That's why they say principles for personalities, because you can't judge the whole based on the actions of a few. And some people are dry drunks, or, you know, they're white knuckling it through this thing, and they're not doing the inner work. And so they have no grace, they have no compassion, and they're just irritable, restless, irritable, and discontent. So you got to keep that in mind. But man, I was met with so much understanding and love and adoration, really. Like, people really lifted me up and empowered me because of that. And I was blown away. I didn't expect it. But after that, yeah, like I said, it was like I hit the ground running, man. And now I could continue doing exactly what I've been doing for the last 6 months. But that last string was cut. That last reservation was gone. And I was finally all in the program, all in for my recovery. And it changed the fucking game. It changed it. I mean, it was weird. Like, you spend all that time getting more and more upset because you think it's not a big deal. And then when you finally do what's suggested to you, you physically feel the weight lift off of you. I felt light as a feather, like I was floating around, like I was on cloud 9. And it was like, this shit's weird, dude. I did not expect any of that. I'm grateful. I'm so grateful that it works like that.
That's
you know.
what's up. Now, how has life been for you since then? Since July 23rd. We won't go back to 6 months prior, but once you got it all and say, okay, it's all out my system. How have things been for you? And the reason why I'm asking that is because there are people that, that started off the new year with, without alcohol. They say they're giving it up, they're giving up drugs. And a lot of times they don't hear it from someone who has time under their belts as far as, how things really have been for you compared to how things you thought was for you when you was actively using.
Right. Well, I'll tell you this. Once I gave up that reservation, this guy that I had been trying to get to sponsor me, Mike, he's the man. He was like, hell yeah. I called him up, told him no more beers, bro. He said, no more beers? And I was like, nope. We punched it in. That means, like, threw out some nuts, pounded it, and that was it. Deal made, and we started getting into that work. I worked the steps, and I was still in treatment. I was in extended care treatment because I was facing 111 months in prison for my meth bust that I got caught up in. And so I was like doing this treatment program to try to show the judge, right? Like, I also took a anger management class, and I did a parenting class, and I was thirsty, man, to learn a new way to live, right? I had 2 other kids that I hadn't seen since, because my first child I had when I was 18. And then I had my second when I was 20. So at this time, I haven't seen my kids in 15 years. It's crazy. Now it's been like 21. They're 24 and 22 now. God still hasn't brought them into my life is a relationship, but I believe that if I stay the course, he's got a restoration. It will probably happen. But I have no expectations because I can't carry that. But yeah, I'm like, I did them steps. I was still in the treatment program, so I was going to daily things, and I was living in an extended care apartment building with a bunch of guys. I remember I kind of hit a wall after, because the fourth and fifth step, that first run, were hard on me. They were hard. But after I did my fifth step, I literally almost like got physically ill because my whole body was like shaking. Like every atom on a like cellular level, my body was like trying to reject all the stuff that my sponsor just illuminated. There was a lot of hard pills of humility and truth to swallow for me. And as a result, I almost became physically ill. He dropped me off. He told me, you know, you need to shut yourself in your room, tell your roommate that you got to work your sixth step in there. So you need an hour. You need an hour to yourself without any distractions, just quiet reflection. And then if you're ready, you can commence to finish it with your seventh step, he said. And I did that. I cried and cried. I talked to God, like, for the first time since that day with that knife.
Mm.
In a really open-hearted way. And yeah, shed a lot of tears, did a lot of journaling, talking to God during my sixth step, making sure, did I do everything that I could as honestly as possible? Did I leave no stone unturned? You know, is the mortar set? And because that first 5 steps is your foundation. Everything stands on it after that, you know. And so I did all that, and I started sleeping good after that. And I had went, like, before that was like a dark time. So I had went to church just one day because Sundays nobody was ever there, and I hated Sundays because it was a dark space for me. You know, I burned all my bridges when I went in there. So I didn't have nobody calling or bringing me money or bringing me on visits. I didn't, you know, I could go out on passes, of course, but nobody wanted to hang out with me. I pretty much burned every bridge. So I went with these dudes to church just to get out of my head on a Sunday. Ended up hearing a sermon that just gut punched me, and I ended up asking Jesus to, like, start his work in me or whatever at an altar call. And I went to that church 4 years after that, Kenny, and I never seen them do an altar call again. It's the weirdest thing.
Wow.
This shit was like divine. And the message he was talking about was all about fatherhood. So it broke me down. I had such a breakdown. I couldn't stop crying for like an hour and a half after that sermon. And I asked my buddy Jim. He was a meth addict that lived in a 4x4 wooden shed with no electricity on his mom's property in his late 50s, just banging dope in his arm. And then he was about 5 years clean, or 4 years clean at that time. And he just put his hand on my shoulder and said, "That's the Holy Spirit, brother." And I was like, holy shit. I don't even know why, but I believe him. And so, yeah, I mean, recovery brought the willingness and the thirst and the desire to learn into my heart and my life. It brought Mike into my life to walk me through them steps. The steps brought the Lord into my life. And then the Lord used me to bring himself into my mother's life. I got to baptize my mom. I know this is long-winded, but dude, you're talking about 7 years. What is life like, right? I got to baptize my mom. I got heavily involved in the church and in recovery circles. I was chairing meetings. I was secretary of meetings. I was part of a team that started a recovery meeting at Grace Fellowship Church in Brooklyn Park, Minnesota. It's called Grace Recovery. That's not the meeting we met at, but that you met a few of the people that night that were part of that team that we started that meeting over there at Grace. And then, so I was part of the recovery ministry at Grace. I started classes to become a Stephen minister, which is kind of like a recovery coach, you know, except with a faith-based element. That was 6 months of training, ended up getting mandated as a ordained Stephen minister. One-on-one Christian care. I'm the caregiver, God's the cure giver. And what else? Oh yeah, I led the baptism team there at Grace for like 3 years, and that was awesome to go once a month and help people take that step of faith and get the wet hugs after and being a part of that moment. That's my favorite part. And then you know, I did Recovery Coach Academy, ended up going to the Minnesota Certification Board and becoming a certified peer recovery support specialist. Started doing the Way Out podcast in 2017 or 2018, September. So it was I've been doing that show for a long time. Since gotten involved in some other things, the Minnesota Recovery Advocacy Project, the Voices Project, Faces and Voices of Recovery, and Mobilize Recovery, and then now most recently got invited to become part of the Recovery Revolution Live team as a co-host on that show. So, you know, now I'm doing 2 podcasts, and God has been faithful, and he's answered any expectation or prayer I ever had, and then some by a lot. And all I keep doing, man, is praying for guidance, trying to practice the pause, you know, not being reactive, trying to respond to situations in life, and just keep showing up for people, man, and for the next right, do the next right thing, and not think I know everything. I always say the most important thing I learned in my recovery, Kenny, is that I do not know shit. and it has served me well.
All right, I got a couple more questions before we end the podcast. So how? I mean, it sounds like you're definitely involved in a lot of recovery programs here in Minnesota. How has the support system on social media been for you?
Oh, wonderful! I didn't mention that, but like one of the first early in, I became part of the admin team on a page called Sober and Serious. It's a great page. There's like 28,000 people on it or something last I checked. And it, you know, that's a God thing, right? Like my buddy Keith started that page and it just took off, man. It's kind of like Recovery Revolution. That show started from J.R. Weaver, who started another page called Recovery Revolution. And that's got like 280,000 people. It's insane, you know. And I don't know. I mean, I think people can go their bouts with pride or ego when something takes off like that. You know, I know for sure Keith did for a little bit, but then life and recovery and our higher powers have a way of knocking us down a peg and reminding us that, you know, this ain't a me thing. You know, this is a we thing.
Right.
This is a we thing. And people are flocking to it because they're getting something out of it from each other. You know, higher power is working through these people. So yeah, I mean, for me, social media, all my social media used to be, bro, was like babes and drugs and dirty jokes and shit like that. And when I got clean, I put down social media for a while, and then I took control of my feed after that. I literally spent hours deleting all the people that had any association in my drug lifestyle. There was a lot of people, bro. Going into my liked pages and like unfollowing, unliking a lot of this shit. And like, as I did that, and I also at the same time was finding positive, hope-filled solution-based content on social media, it completely ticked. Now it's like a pretty much a constant stream of positivity, and it's a useful tool in my recovery for sure. And I'm grateful for it.
Now, how was the recovery night at the Minnesota Wild hockey game on Thursday?
Oh my God. I went to a fight and a hockey game broke out. Dude, that was so sick. Like the first 5 minutes, there was 3 fights, and one of them, I swear, was the longest fight I've ever seen in a hockey game. These dudes were going at it for a hot minute. So, that ref's just standing there waiting until they, like, break their grasp. But as long as they're holding on to each other, they got to just watch and wait, kind of. But, yeah, dude, it was badass, man. It was exciting. It was super exciting. And then, it was looking like it was pretty tough at the end when they got that score to tie the game on us. But then we took it in overtime. So it was definitely an awesome game to be at, dude. I had the best time. It's going to be hard to top the experience of that game against the Philly Flyers, dude. That was so dope. I was glad I went. And then the speaker beforehand was really amazing too. He was a Minnesota boy. He grew up in Minnesota and then played for the Gophers for 4 years before he went pro. And he ended up becoming a legend down there and for the Dallas Stars after they stole our North Stars team.
Yeah, I still haven't been to a hockey game, and like I told you, I've been living here off and on since 2000, and I still even went to St. Cloud State, one of the best schools in the country, and still haven't been to a hockey game. I've been in the hockey arena up there for graduation, but that's about it.
Well, we need to go.
Okay, yeah,
we need to go.
For sure.
Dude, because I'm telling you, you go to the XL Energy Center, you're going to be like, any uncertainty you have about making that decision to go will wash away in the first few minutes once that game's about to start. And they light that arena up with all the lights and the lasers and stuff, dude. They get you hyped, right off the start, hardcore, bro. So
yeah,
you'll just be like, this shit's dope, dude. Like,
yeah, I'm like, I only stay like less than 10 minutes from the XL. I'm not that far, like, at all. Like I go by there all the time. Yeah, I'm like literally like not too far from it. Now, before we close, let me see. What was it? What message do you have? Because like you said, you had you quit the drug usage. You said March, right? Was it March? You said March of 2016, and then you quit completely alcohol in July. Now, what message would you? I mean, you've given some really good insight to others, because I know that this is definitely the stuff I wanted to hear, because I got sober just a little bit after you did. What message would you want to leave the audience with? That's one, as that New Year's resolution, like I want to give up, the usage of drugs and alcohol. And that's one. And then the second question is, what type of message would you give someone in their first year of, your first year of sobriety? You know what I'm saying? Because, that's the biggest challenge, is if you can truly make it through that first year. And that's then real. I think I might have one more question for you, but I want you to answer that, and then let me go through and see if I miss any questions.
All right, cool. So if you're early in recovery, I would say it's okay to not be okay. Keep asking for help, but that's a two-parter, because if you're going to ask for help, that's great. That's honestly the harder part. But then you need to follow suggestions. You need to do what they tell you to do. You want to find somebody that's got what you want and let them guide you. that's the caveat with this. It's like it can seem so daunting that I'm gonna try to like stay sober. Even just that piece seems impossible, right, in the beginning. And then as you get a little clean time, life's issues, the things you need to fix and repair, seem overwhelming. Don't look at the big picture like that. Keep showing up. Keep doing the next thing in front of you, because small steps done consistently lead to huge results. And then the beautiful thing, the comforting thing for that part of your mind that won't shut up, that says it's fucking impossible, is that you don't need to know anything. You just ask for help and you let them show you, you know? My first 2 years, man, they were my brain. The people in the rooms, my sponsor, they were my brain. They were my everything. I felt bad for my sponsor, dude. I'd call him about some dumb shit, I'm sure. But it seemed dumb. It would seem dumb to someone else, but to me, I was dead ass serious, man. I didn't know how to show up in the world. I didn't know how to react to things, and I didn't want to make things worse. You know, at that point, I had a third child who I wasn't able to see, and it was a result of my actions and my arrest and everything. And I had to keep showing up and eat my humble pie and try to show through my actions that I could be trusted again. And that took a long time. So that is hard, and that leads to a lot of frustrating moments. And as a result, I'd call him freaking out about probably the dumbest shit, you know, like, do I butter one side of the toast or both sides, bro? I don't know how to butter toast, you know, like, I need your help with like everything. So yeah, just keep showing up, stay teachable, stay humble. Even if once you feel like you got good footing and you got something to offer the stream of life, and you can help reach one and teach one, that's great, man. Be of service, but don't ever get cocky. Don't think you got this. Do not think that you've arrived. This is a journey. It is not a destination. There's always going to be more to work on, and just know that you're loved, and you don't have to do this alone. You know, it sounds harder than it is. It's once you let people in to help you, you know, there's a reason they call it sharing the load. It's a lot less heavy, man, when you're not doing it by yourself. So ask for help and then do what they tell you to do.
I like that. Jason, thank you so much for blessing 12 Faces of Sober Speaks podcast. Ladies and gentlemen,
Yeah.
I hope that this information that Jason has shared this morning is impactful, motivates you, that, you know, we all have a sketchy, scary past, but we decided to give up what was holding us back. And now life looks so much different. We're able to, you know, enjoy events, do things that we thought we enjoyed when we were under the influence, but now we really do enjoy it, and it's more meaningful. And things that you may not have noticed when you were under the influence, you can now notice because you're completely not under the influence. And so, like I said, man, I appreciate you coming on. Appreciate you sharing. I know we got to get together. I know life has been busy for the both of us, but like I said, that it's definitely coming. I got a few things brewing, but I should be free after mid-February, and I should be able to, you know, move around. But definitely, I'm thankful that you came on this morning. I'm glad that we've been able to catch up, because, like I said, we've been playing the phone tag for a while, but I'm glad that you came on and shared, because, like I said, I know for sure that, you know, the information you provided is gonna, you know, it's gonna help somebody. You know, that's what it's all about, is that we never know who's gonna hit play and who needs to hear something that you mentioned. You know what I'm saying? And that's what it's all about. But with that, man, you know, this is another wonderful episode of 12 Faces of Sober Speaks podcast. one last thing, Jason, if you don't mind, at least telling everybody where exactly they can follow you as well as your podcast. And then also I'm gonna need for you to text me that, so when I put it in the description box, I could also have it on there so that people can go ahead and watch your follow your podcast and everything as well.
All right, dude, bet. Well, Recovery Revolution Live is on YouTube, so you can look it up on YouTube, or it's on Facebook through the Recovery Revolution page. So if you follow Recovery Revolution, you can sign up for notifications when they go live with Recovery Revolution Live, or you can do the same thing through the YouTube channel. The Way Out podcast is the other podcast that I do, and you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, all the socials, and you can look me up, Jason Rudeen, Rudeen. You can find me on all the socials as well. I'm most active on Facebook and Instagram, I would say. Yeah, I don't tweet much.
Me neither. Look,
I'm not a Twitter guy.
I've had that account since like 2009, and I've probably been tweeted like 4 things since then. Like I don't get it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not super huge on it, but those are the avenues you could use to find me. Even if you just Google my name, I'm sure all that pops up. And then a slew of these where I've been the guest. I've been the one in the hot seat, so to speak, on some interviews and stuff on a lot of shows. So there's a lot of stuff out there, man. If you want content you like hearing this voice, you got no problems. You'll find a lot of that.
For sure. And like I said, you guys can continue to follow me on all platforms as well, 12 Faces of Sober, or you can shop the merch, 12facesofsober.com. We'd love the support and greatly appreciate it. Thank you to Smarty Beth for tuning in. She reached out and said she didn't know how to do the live, so I had to explain it to her, and I'm glad she sat through and listened to the whole entire thing. So thank you so much. And everybody else who watched and those who watch it later, this is what it's all about, is that, just some, people in recovery having a good conversation. That's what it's all about. And we're trying to help others that's still out there struggling or early in sobriety. So once again, this is another wonderful episode of 12 Faces of Sober. Thank you, man. Have a wonderful day. Jason, like I said, thanks again, man. I appreciate you, bro. And we'll definitely be talking real soon.
Yeah, dude, I'm grateful for you, man, and I had a blast being on with you this morning, and just love you, bro. Like, we're family for life. And Beth, she's funny. She's like, I appreciate your ears, because Charles says that all the time on the Way Out podcast.
Right.
You can tell that she's a fan, and she's busted up a little.
Yeah, and I appreciate the follow too. I appreciate the follow. She followed me yesterday, so I wanted to shout her out for that. I appreciate it. And then go through my content and watch some more videos too.
Right.
All right, man,
dude, honestly, my first couple years, man, it was like podcasts, bro. I was super deep into it. I would listen to like 5, 6, 7 of them a day at work, just like milling at work or whatever I was doing. I worked in a metal shop at the time, so I could have earbuds in and just do my own thing. Podcasts are great. You get a lot out of them. So thanks, Kenny.
All right, bro, man. Have a good rest of the day.
You too. Peace.
All right, man. Take care.